Hey, what's good, everybody? This is Brant with CPC Bodybuilding, the home of men's classic physique. Today, I'll be previewing the Tampa Pro in men's classic physique with a special guest, my friend IFBB Classic Pro, Jared Keys. Jared, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing really, really good. How are you doing, bro?
Good, man. I'm happy to have you on and preview another great classic show, man.
I'm excited for this one. Guys. Real quick to preface, if you guys hear some crazy sounds in the background, that's my daughter. I'm on daddy duty, and I am going to be sneaking in a few bites of my meal, so bear with me.
Got to get them meals in, guys. Don't miss meals. Jared's setting a good example. But yeah, we got the Tampa Pro this weekend, guys. It is a Friday show. It's a Tim Gardner show. Tim runs awesome shows here in the IFBB and the NPC. So you guys are in for an awesome experience this weekend. It will be live streamed. So make sure to give you guys the details on that as well. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can give you guys the deets on all of that. So the Tampa Pro, you can stream it here at tvplm.com. Like I said, classic guys go on Friday. So prejudging is going to start at 11 a.m. Eastern time, and then finals will be at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So if y'all want to tune in, it is $35 here at this website. You can also find it at timgardnerproductions.com and then follow the links there to get here. But this is a pretty big lineup, guys. So you're in for a relatively long preview, and we'll be sure to give our thoughts on each competitor. So starting out, I'll just go ahead and go through the lineup, and then we'll give our thoughts on each competitor. And then, like all preview shows, we'll conclude with our top 5 and pick our winner who will qualify for the Olympia. So here is our classic physique lineup. We've got a lot of guys coming in who are, 2 or 3 shows deep this year. Some guys even more. So a lot of repeat competitors, and it's going to be a very close show, guys. So here's our lineup. We've got Cremo Amari out of the UAE, Dylan Bursey from New Brunswick, Canada, Rodrigo Coelho of Brazil, Billy Don, Carlos Domar, Karel Draper, Kurt Edwards, Dino Estrada, Camilo Diaz, Lucas Giannini, Matt Grego, Logan Guthrie, Kelvin Hindi, Keith Holmes, Jake Keetle, Chris Mensa, Eslam Mohammed, Jesse Norris, Gerard Toribio Perez, Antoine Powers, Caleb Robinson, Amit Roy, Lucas DeSanti, Peter Cialo, Bennett Streets, George Tybalt, Jared Thompson, Caleb Walker, and Bob Waterhouse. So that's your full classic physique lineup, guys. Now what we'll do is start with Cremo Amari. Now, Cremo is coming off of a couple really solid performances. We saw him not only in Chicago, but also in Atlanta. So Cremo is one of those guys who is really knocking on the door of getting that Olympia qualification, 2 third-place finishes, and he's made some incredible improvements since stepping on stage last year at Legion. So, Jared, when we look at Cremo's physique, what are some qualities that you see?
Man, right off the bat, Cremo brings some great conditioning. I think that's one of the main things that kind of stands out in his physique. I also believe he's very balanced. He's got a very, very balanced physique. So his legs are solid, his lats are solid from the front and the back. He's got full arms, good bicep peaks, and once again, just incredible conditioning.
Yeah, big fan of Cremo's physique, and he's going to definitely be one of the most muscular guys on that stage. He's proven to just be able to stack up with a lot of these taller guys, because I don't think Cremo's that tall, but man, he has a lot of muscle on his frame now. So
Sure. I believe he's probably like mid height, so he's probably like 5'9", 5'10".
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but a lot of these guys, it seems like the crop of classic guys the past couple of shows, and maybe it's just recency bias with like Dylan Bursey, but just like huge guys, or like Gerard Toribio Perez. I mean, he's like
Right.
one of the biggest guys in the IFBB. So you got some big dudes in this lineup, but Primo can hang with all of them. So
So, yes, sir.
speaking of Dylan Bursey, we've got Dylan here, another repeat competitor. So Dylan took second in his pro debut at Vancouver. Very impressive. And fourth at Chicago, I believe. So he's 2022 Mr. North America. Just an incredible amount of potential with this guy. When we look at some of these photos that were actually taken just probably about a half hour ago at MI40 there in Tampa, what do you like about Dylan's physique?
Man, so one of the first things that I'll mention, for the viewers and everybody, Dylan is very, very tall. Like, how tall is he exactly?
Oh shoot, man. I don't know exactly. He was in class
Yeah.
D though when he was an amateur. So very,
Oh,
very
that the Avatar class D.
yeah.
And like right off the bat, Dylan is very, I'd say he's very symmetrical, very proportional. His conditioning is absolutely great. I mean, look at this front shot here. You guys can see, his sartorius is fully out. He's got, very deep hips. And then, of course, striated quads, all that good stuff in the legs. And then, going up the upper body, hard abs, big flowing lats, big full chest, big full shoulders, big full triceps. Now, I mentioned his height earlier because it's really, really hard to see quite how big he is when he's standing by himself. I believe that he has one of those physiques that when he stands by himself, he looks absolutely amazing. But when you see him compared to other competitors, you can truly see just how good his physique is, how much size, how much development that he has. And I think that he's a threat. Excuse me, he's a threat with that level of conditioning, with that level of size, with that level of symmetry, proportions. I think he's a threat to any lineup with everything that he has to offer.
Agreed, man. I think he's a definite first call out in this lineup. Almost a sure shot. So Dylan
Yeah.
Bursey. Next up, we got Rodrigo Coelho. This is from the Atlanta Pro. So one of the best Masters pros out there. And what he really brings is great condition and separation. He won the Masters divisions at both Chicago and Charlotte. So incredible Masters Pro. And he in the Open Classic division typically is around that second call out. So he's going to probably be fighting for somewhere in the range of, I would assume, 8 to 12. So Rodrigo Coelho out of Brazil. Next up, we got Billy Don out of Canada. And Billy is trying to redeem himself after a bit of a disappointing performance in Vancouver. Now, when we look at some of these shots, this was a week out. What do you notice about his physique, Jared?
Good question. He looks good. He looks really, really good. This is rookie season, right?
I don't believe so, actually. I don't know when Billy turned pro, but I don't believe this is his rookie season. Now he actually coaches a guy. This guy right here commented Idris Barakma, who he coaches him, and Idris won the overall at the Vancouver Pro Qualifier and then placed ahead of him, which is pretty crazy. Just one spot ahead of him. But I mean, I think Billy's got a fantastic physique. I really like this front lat spread right here.
Yeah, that's so like I like it. I like the front lat spread a lot too, man. You can really, really see how much lats he has, man. That's incredible to have those kind of lats from the front. His legs are very full. Maybe he just hit a leg day. They do look a little bit blurred there, but with that being said, good conditioning. I can tell maybe, like I said, maybe it's a little bit of water, maybe it's a little bit of swelling from training them, but he looks like he's in pretty solid conditioning, good shape. Yeah, man, it looks like he's a shorter guy like me. So with that being said, man, the bigger we could possibly be, the better. I really, I'm looking to see him improve upon his placing or potentially do a little bit better here than Vancouver, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think he definitely can. He's got great shape and structure. So that's Billy Don. Next up, we've got Carlos Domar out of Venezuela, who is the 2023 Atlanta Pro champion, we weren't really sure if he was going to be in this lineup for sure, but he has confirmed it. We're definitely going to see Carlos here at Tampa. Jared, what stands out to you when you look at Carlos Domar's physique?
Besides everything, man, like Carlos right off the bat, he's a good guy. Um, I also know Cremo too, so shout out to Cremo. He's a good guy too that I talk to often. But um, Carlos, man, I mean, to be completely honest with you, I believe that this guy is going to be in the top 15 at the Olympia this year. I know that's a strong prediction to make this far out, but he's just so solid. He's got incredible conditioning, great muscle mass, great symmetry. I believe that he's going to be, he's going to outsize most guys at this show, and he's going to bring completely peeled conditioning. I believe that he's going to be very, very hard to beat. Definitely a first call out guy.
Absolutely, man. He's just so complete. It's so hard to find a weakness to attack when you're you know, looking to compete against him, man. I don't see any weaknesses with Carlos because he knows exactly how to pose to his strengths too. If you pay very close attention to this posing routine, you're going to notice that he picks these surgically. These are all very good poses for him.
Oh
And
yeah.
I just think Carlos is just so polished, man.
Yeah, man. If I can make one critique, I would like to see him hold his poses for about a half second to a second longer. Just simply because he just looks so good. I mean, when you look that good, you want them to, I think about, you want them to take as many pictures as possible in each pose because you just look so good. And I think that, I think his posing is great. Don't get me wrong. That's not me critiquing his posing, saying that it really needs any too much work to it at all. I just believe that if he were to hold his poses for a second longer, it would just be even more impactful in his routines.
Yeah, if anything, I think it's a compliment. Basically, it's like you don't have to do as much. You got such a great physique that you can literally just like hold it where it's like, look at me, guys. So I mean, Carlos is great. So that's Carlos Domar, guys. Next up, we got Carell Draper. So he last competed at Atlanta. If y'all can see here, did not place. Now, I think he's got a lot of muscle. It's just a matter of coming in condition. You'll see here that we really just can't see a whole lot of the lines, especially in the lower body. Abs, you can see them, but we're really just about, a couple of weeks out here. I think if he is dialed in the condition a little bit since Atlanta, he's definitely gonna do better than a DNP here. So because he's definitely got tons of muscle mass. So that is Carell Draper. Next up, we got Kurt Edwards, Masters Pro. This is his first appearance in 4 years. We last saw him at the New York Pro in 2019. And just looking at these shots from him and his coach, Justin Jacoby, looks like he's greatly improved, especially in terms of condition. I think that was the one critique I had for him looking at his New York pictures, but he looks dialed. I think his condition is great. You're going to look and you can see we got the signature glute striations. Lower back is in.
That's right.
You can see the pianoing through the hamstrings. I think he just looks great, man. Great Masters competitor.
Quick on this shot, yeah, I think he looks amazing for a Masters guy. Great conditioning. A lot of good things here. One thing that I think that he could do to potentially improve this pose slightly is if he were to just bring his feet in a little bit closer together and really, really flare out those glutes and abductors. I think that he's kind of hiding away a little bit of muscle there.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. You want to eliminate the gaps. So that's Kurt Edwards, everybody. All right. So next up, we got Dino Estrada. And this guy, in my mind, is a sleeper here. He took fourth at San Antonio last year. Jared, you were there competing against him last year. What are your thoughts? And these are from an earlier show, so a little bit of an asterisk. This was from his pro debut at Pittsburgh last year. But when we look at Dino, what do you like about his physique?
Man, so shout out to Dino, another good guy I know who I talk to sometimes. I was there when he turned pro, actually. A crazy story at the Universe in 2020, I believe. 2020 Universe where he turned pro. And I was just absolutely, impressed with his physique completely at that point. But he's made a lot of improvements, of course, since then. So right off the bat, man, Dino's got great conditioning. I love his quads, really, really good quad shape, great shoulders. Overall, a really, really solid physique. And I do have to agree, he's definitely a bit of a sleeper going into this one. You don't really, I don't like, besides you, brother, I don't really see too many people, really, really highlighting guys who are, I would say, on the come up. And I'd say that, he's definitely one of those guys that's on the come up for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
He works with Chris Aceto, so we know that he's going to bring a solid package. He's going to have some solid conditioning and probably bring some good improvements in this physique right here as well.
Yeah, I think he's just got some of the crispest lines out there, man. He's got the classic look. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he is an embodiment of classic. And, I think his physique has just been built solidly over time. It shows. So that's Dino Estrada. Next up, we got Camilo Diaz out of Colombia. Now, this is a 2022 Classic Olympian, and Camilo has competed in a lot of shows this year. I think this is his 6th show. I could be wrong, but he's been in a lot of shows this year. He took top 4 at some really deep shows, New York and Pittsburgh particularly, but he took 7th in his home country of Colombia last week, which is really surprising to me, especially I was watching finals, and I probably would have had him a bit higher. I probably would have had him placing probably 3rd or 4th just based on the other guys there. And I think they tended to go with more like a shape favored look instead of a mass favored look, because Camilo definitely does not lack any size. But what are your thoughts on Camilo Diaz?
Man, Camilo, I feel like anytime you see his name on a lineup, it's an automatic, okay, he's a threat. Got to keep an eye out for him. He came down from bodybuilding, so once again, he's not lacking any size whatsoever. I mean, he usually has to come in pretty conditioned. I'm pretty sure just even make the weight cap. With that being said, I'm a little surprised that he hasn't won anything quite yet this year. But at the same time, too, I do believe that they are starting to go a little bit more for shape than for overall mass, like you were mentioning before. So, with that being said, I think he's a bit of a wild card. He's one of those guys that could walk in and win, or I don't know exactly what happened in Colombia, but apparently, even when he's on, he might not get that look that the judges are necessarily going for. So, with that being said, this guy could win it. He could place 5th. He could place 10th. I have no idea on this one.
Our next competitor is the 2022 NPC National Champion in Classic Physique, a Brazilian-American, Lucas Giannini, making his pro debut. Now, we can see here that we've got his individual posing routine from NPC Nationals. And Jared, when we look at this, what do you notice about Lucas's physique that stands out?
Man, I'd say this guy's a little Arnold-esque, if you will, especially when how he kind of walked out there with the relaxed. But with that being said, man, it looks like he brings really, really good conditioning, considering the fact that this is where he turned pro. He also brings a lot of size, man, a lot of size. Being a taller guy, especially being a newer pro, a lot of times it's hard. Well, I think it's harder for everybody really to fill out, and reach that pro level size. But I'd say, if he brings some improvements to his back here, he's going to be dangerous, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. He didn't have any recent updates posted, so I was a bit disappointed. Like I think it said a few weeks out, like it was like 4 or 5 weeks out that we saw an update, but nothing where it's like, what'd you say?
I was going to mention, I was looking at some of his pictures, that he did post this prep. And I'd say as long as he stayed on track, man, he looks like he's going to be bringing in some crazy conditioning. I was looking at pictures from like May, July, and it looked like he was already starting to get pretty lean.
Yeah, man. I sure hope he brings it, because he's got tremendous potential. So that's Lucas Giannini, everybody. Let's see. Zoom is getting in my way here. So next up, we got Matt Grego, one of the rising stars here in Classic Physique. He's just been improving with every single show. And he took 2nd at the Chicago Pro last weekend, battling it out with Marcus Perry. And when we look at this posing video from this morning, What are some of the strengths that Matt brings to the table?
I think that Matt brings a very complete level of size and development, especially from the front and the side shots. I mean, look at that most muscular there, man. He's huge. But with that being said, he also I believe that he's been improving on his conditioning as well too from show to show, which even better shows his shape, which even better shows his size and his mass and his development. I believe that Matt is very, very dangerous. I believe that he is capable of winning a show. It just, at the end of the day, for all competitors, it just depends on who shows up, and if that just happens to be your day. But with that being said, I do believe that this man's got a big future, whether it's in classic or whether he moves up to open, which I've seen some people kind of mention. I think that he could do damage. I think that whether he gets it or not at this show, he's definitely Olympia, potentially Olympia quality.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I couldn't agree more. I think he brings a very unique physique in the fact that he has the lines and the shape, but he also has kind of the round muscle bellies to pair with it, which is something you don't see all that often.
This
So,
man, like even when he's flat, he's got those muscle bellies that look full.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's probably one of the most dangerous things about him. So that's Matt Grego. Next up, we got Logan Guthrie, aka LG, the future, as many people know him. So he's one of those guys who it's kind of tough to know what to expect. This is his pro debut. He won the 2021 Amateur Olympia in Classic Physique. And when we look at some of these black and white kitchen shots, what stands out about some of these?
Logan has a very, very good structure. I mean, I think that that's something. Logan's a great guy as well, so definitely want to mention that I know personally. But also too, it was kind of crazy, man, because one of my first shows back in like 20, I want to say it was like 2017, 2018. He was the future. Everybody was talking about him. He ended up winning. I think he won the overall. I think it was the Border Clash. I can't remember exactly what show it was, but he was talked about even from that point in time. So I think that his debut has definitely been pretty anticipated as a pro. His conditioning, in my personal opinion, from what I've seen in the past, looks like it's going to be his absolute best. And then of course he's got a lot of size, really good shape, great quads. I like his back shots a lot too, man. His back looks pretty solidly full through the upper back, and then his lower back is absolutely peeled. So that being said, man, it'll be very interesting and exciting to see what he brings this Friday.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to see if he is indeed the future. I think we'll get a glimpse into the crystal ball this Friday. So
it's funny, watching Fuad's podcast with him and everything. They were like, "Oh, you've been the future for X amount of years."
yeah, they were like, "You're pretty much the past at this point."
he might be stepping into the now.
Yeah. So it's Logan Guthrie. Next up, we got, I think, probably one of, if not the biggest sleeper in this lineup. We got Kelvin Hindi out of the UK. He's the UK's first classic pro, and he's competing in the Masters Olympia this year. I think he has a good shot to actually win the Masters Olympia. This is how good Kelvin is. And he had 3 second place finishes last year in pro shows. Barely missed out on the Olympia.
You said he had 3 second places last year?
3 second places. Barely missed out on the O, literally just because he tied for the most points, but lost on a really strange technicality. So they took the top 3 in terms of points last year, and he tied with somebody, but they picked the other person because the other person got a second place at a bigger show, but he had more second places.
Interesting.
They had the same amount of points. So he didn't get the nod to go to the Olympia last year, though he had some great performances, including this here. This was at the Prague Pro, where he's standing with the guy who won the show, Patrick Herchik. And I think Kelvin has a spectacular physique. He's one of those guys, I think without a doubt, is going to be top 10 here, and very well could sneak his way into that first call out if things go his way. Now, just looking at some of these shots, I think what really stands out to me is his balance and proportion. He doesn't really have a whole lot of weaknesses. The one thing I would say is just structure wise, he probably could use a little bit more in terms of like erectors, but like everything else is there for him, in my opinion.
Oh,
I really like Kelvin's physique. What do you notice about some of these shots?
man, he's got a massive, massive, massive frame and structure. Really good. Like that back shot was pretty crazy, if you ask me. I mean, he needs, I agree, just a little bit more lower back and maybe change up his posing to show the lower back detail size. And then also too, I think that from the back here, he could be a bit leaner. I mean, I think that's probably the only reason why he didn't win this show.
Yeah, and I think also the selection of trunks counts a lot.
Oh yeah,
You want to be showing the glutes, guys,
he needs
unless
to
you're
get a
bringing
pair of
watery
group
glutes.
wear. He needs to get the Chula wear. Jared 10.
Yeah, you heard him. Go support him. Chula, I wear their trunks too. So use code Jared10 at checkout. Get yourself some nice posing trunks. But this is Kelvin Hindi. Again, I think a sleeper in this lineup. All right. So next up, we got Keith Holmes, who's a Masters pro. And just hitting on his physique real quick, I think his strengths are probably his delts and his arms. Looks really full here in this gym photo. Got a posing video right here. I think really his upper body's very solid. I think he definitely needs some more mass in the lower body to really, be competitive here. But I think he's got a tremendous physique, great detail. Condition is certainly not an issue here with Keith. So that is Keith Holmes. Next up, we got Jake Keedle, who is Mr. USA 2017 in classic physique. Last saw him at the Chicago Pro in 2020, where he did not place. And some of the strengths that I think he brings to the table would probably his quads and his lats. Definitely has a nice physique where if he were to ever do like 212, I think he would, do kind of decent there. I just think he needs probably some more mass, just looking at these photos to do well. Next up, we got Chris Mensa, who's making his pro debut, lightweight champion at 2021 USA's. And he's definitely a shorter guy, but he brings very sharp detail. You can see a lot in the quads here. You can see the teardrops, the outer sweeps, all the lines. And that is Chris Mensa. Next up, this is a guy who is extremely intriguing to me, Eslam Muhammad, who I don't know if this is a misprint,
I believe it is.
I was gonna say this guy is he looks like an open bodybuilder. I'm like wondering, this is I'm like, there's no way this guy makes classic weight.
Anyway, Bodybuilders Without Borders mentioned that he's actually going to be in the open.
Yeah, I was gonna say like this guy, because we last saw him at Boston in the open, so we'll skip over him.
He's a Mr. Olympia of all the classic physique.
Yeah. And next up, we got Jesse Norris, who last competed at the 2022 Tampa Pro, took sixth in Masters Classic Physique. And I think he brings great condition, especially from this most muscular right here. So that's Jesse Norris. Next up, we got a guy who I think has a great ceiling. And Jared, I definitely want your take on this guy. This is Gerard Toribio Perez. And this is probably one of the better videos we'll get. I didn't really want to show those stage shots because they're kind of transitions and don't really showcase his physique that great. But one of the biggest guys in the IFBB here. He's only placed in the top 10 in his two pro appearances as a classic physique competitor. When we look at this posing video as he's going into a side chest, what do you like about his physique?
Like, man, first off, I really like his front shot a lot. His front double bicep, his front relax. It's really good too because he's just got like such a big structure. Such a big structure. His quads look really, really good from the front here because you can clearly see that each quad's roughly the same size as his waist, which is very impressive. Maybe his waist is even smaller than his quads. He's got a great rib cage as well too, so he's going to look really, really good. Any of those overhead, types of poses and things like that. if I could, yeah, I like the shoulders too from the side here. If I could critique anything in the meantime that he could potentially improve upon between shows here, is I would like to see him a bit harder, a bit leaner, because I feel like if he were a bit harder, a bit leaner, he's going to definitely get, maybe get the looks that he deserves. But this conditioning right here is not bad. It's just at the higher level of the IFBB, which the show Tampa is going to be, those guys are going to be absolutely skinned, absolutely peeled to the bone. So I believe that if he's able to come in a bit harder, he could definitely improve upon his placing from, I think it was Atlanta that he did last, or Chicago, one of those two
Yeah,
shows.
he did Chicago. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, man. I think he looks absolutely amazing. Coming a bit harder, and I think that he's in the conversation.
Yeah. Gerard Toribio Perez, everybody. Next up, we got Antoine Powers, who last competed at Atlanta. He took 11th place. And this is a guy who he was in the first call out, I believe, at Hurricane last year. So I think he's got great potential. I love Antoine's shape. We'll go to some of the more recent photos here. So these are check-ins from 4 days out, which was 2 days ago. And when we look at the check-ins, Jared, what do you like about Antoine's physique? We just got a back double and a front double here.
Right. Man, great bicep peaks. Great bicep peaks. Biceps are cresting right over the shoulders as well too. So that's great posing. I like how he's shifting his hips a bit there, not too much, but shifting them a bit, which I think maybe gives him a little bit more leg size from the front and makes his waist look even smaller. He's got good lats from the front, very full chest. I'd say his chest is definitely a strong point. Quads look okay. I think that they're definitely proportional to his physique. Nothing too crazy there. But yeah, he looks good. He looks good. I think kind of the same critique. If he can come in a bit harder, he could probably definitely improve upon that placing, I believe.
Yeah, I think he's got a great physique, and I think
Great
very
the back, man. Those hamstrings are huge.
yeah, great hamstring and glute tie-in. So that is Antoine Powers. Next up, we got Caleb Robinson. So this is from the Optimum Classic, which was his pro debut. He took 5th place there. So coming off of a very strong start to a pro career. And when we look at this posing video, I'm hoping it kind of moves into something a little bit more focal to his physique. We could do probably this right here. Man, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and just find my photos here because I know I definitely have a shot of him. Yeah. So when we look at this front double, Jared, what stands out to you?
I would say his quads for sure, his legs. His sartorius is fully out, so that means those legs are very, very developed, very hard. And it looks like he's got good bicep peaks too. Definitely a good structure that has a lot of potential, if you ask me.
Yeah, definitely tons of potential, especially this early on in his career to come out, get a 5th place in his pro debut. I think fantastic. So that's Caleb Robinson. Next up, we got Amit Roy, who this is a very interesting character. Won the 2017 North American overall and classic, but so you'll see that right here. That's him in 2017. Looks massive. Like this guy, if you ask me from these photos, he could just hop right into bodybuilding, like 212 or if he can make the weight. But I mean, just massive. And he's a shorter guy, but what you'll see here that he's been doing recently is competing in men's physique. A bit of a surprise in my mind. Yeah. And I don't think he was very satisfied with these packages that he brought. Now, this was last year where he competed in men's physique. This is Sharu, India. So making a little bit of a change here and going back to classic physique. Now, I mean, just let's go back to that. Like, okay, so here is, this is not usable. What's this right here? This is sideways. We're not going to do that. We'll just look at the North American shot. Jared, what do you think? He's he's just huge in my opinion.
I think that Amit is once again, like you said, he's huge. He's very, very complete. He's as complete as basically a bodybuilder, like you were mentioning. And his conditioning is always really, really impressive, or at least it always was when I saw him compete. It's been a few years since I didn't even realize he had been physique, which is pretty crazy if you ask me. Not in a bad way, just crazy. But with that being said, I think that it's not like he has a bad shape. I think he has a good shape, but I do believe that it's potential that there's some things that might hold him back with the shape, because he's just so massive. He's just so big. He carries that muscle very, very well. But at the end of the day, too, it could play very, very well to his favor. I mean, a physique like this, if he were to do, I'm thinking Chicago, which Steve judged, he could have won that, because I think that Steve definitely looks for that mass, that development, those kind of things like that. I think it really just comes down to, for this specific show, shape and what the judges' preferences are. Honestly, he could win.
Yeah, I do know Steve's judging this one too, so
it is. Ooh,
it'll be interesting.
It might be a benefit to him.
Yeah. So that's Amit Roy. Next up, we got Lucas DeSanti, who I believe I think he's Brazilian. Name definitely sounds Brazilian. So, but here are some recent photos. I think he looks peeled. Dude looks just insanely shredded. And these are some close-up check-ins. I like this front lat spread a lot. I think that's a good shot for him. You can see the fullness and the hardness, especially in the upper body. I really like the delts and the lats. The lats pop a lot. You can just tell the lats are very thick there.
He's breaking out huge too, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, Lucas DeSanti looks very good. My biggest question here is, how big is he? I've never seen him on stage, so I'll be intrigued to see, in terms of standing next to some of these guys, how big he looks, because like you said earlier, a lot of guys look great on their own, but this is a relative sport where you're being compared to others. So Lucas DeSanti right there, guys. Next up, we got Peter Cialo, who is a 2020 Olympian, and he won the Masters Classic Physique in 2020 at Tampa. And I think when I look at Peter's physique, you're not going to see a whole lot of photos here, but just looking at this right here, I think he's got kind of like the 2016, 2017-esque classic physique, like the Danny Hester type of classic physique. A bit shorter and stockier, very muscular, but I'll be intrigued to see kind of how he stacks up here, because to me, this goes a little bit more. This is no offense to Peter, but I think this is more of a 212-esque physique than a classic physique, just in my opinion. But he did go to the Olympia in 2020, so he very well could prove me wrong and do well here.
He's posing on top of the box, man. I need to do that because I'm sure.
Next up, we got a guy who has great potential in this lineup. This is Bennett Streets. And Jared, did you compete against him last year at all?
I did at Savannah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And I think he took fourth at Savannah last year. So he's definitely
also Masters as well too.
Yeah, he won the Masters show. I believe he's also competing at the Masters Olympia this year. And when we look at Bennett's physique here, so this is a week ago, a back shot here in his gym in Connecticut. What do you think stands out about Bennett's physique?
I'd say his conditioning specifically, that stands out big time. He brings in great conditioning, and he's also a really tall guy too. So I think that those two things definitely play to his advantage a lot. Kind of the same critique here with the back poses. Maybe bring his legs in just a little bit more, push those glutes out, those abductors, so that his legs, so that he shows his true size from the back. Watch him hit his classic pose here. I'd say he's got a pretty decent shape, real small waist, great bicep peaks for sure. It'll be interesting to see kind of how these things translate to the stage for him. But I think he looks great.
Yeah, so that's Bennett Streets, guys. Next up, we got Masters Pros is George Tybalt. And, I think George looks fantastic. I don't know what his age is. I'm not going to speculate, but I mean, dude looks sharp. This is from, he says, a long time ago. This is him next to Toto Jong, classic physique pro who we know. And I think George just brings very sharp detail, great separation. It's definitely a physique that you can tell has been forged over a long period of time. So lots of training under his belt. So that's George.
And he looks great. He looks great.
Yeah. Shout out George Tibble. Next up, we got Jared Thompson. And this is a guy who I think could also be a guy who sneaks into that first call out here. He's got the potential to if he brings his best. This is from 3 days out. So this is a day old shot. And he, I believe, took third place at Atlanta last year behind Tommy Clark and JT Pelkey. So he's shown that he can really, dance with some of the big dogs. I think Jared's got, I think really what his calling card is the graininess. You just see that here, especially in that front shot. Now, Jared, curious what your thoughts are when we look at some of these other photos. It looks like a lot of front shots. Yeah, we'll just stick to these. So what's your impression of Jared's physique?
Like you mentioned, man, his conditioning is really, really good. I really like his leg size from the back there. He's kind of doing those things I was mentioning for those other guys, pushing his glutes out, pushing those abductors out, and keeping his feet relatively closer together, so that he shows all of his size there. One thing I'd even say is he could probably scoot his foot out, a little bit more, and that'll just make him look even bigger from the bottom and from the back. But with that being said, he's got a really, really solid physique. I believe that he's a shorter guy like me. So with that being said, it's harder for us to compete against those taller guys if we don't quite have the mass. But with that being said, I think that he's got some good mass, great lats from the front, good arms, pretty solid chest, and good quads. But once again, that graininess, that's a freak factor. That's something that should definitely be rewarded.
Yeah. So that's Jared Thompson, guys. Next up, we got Caleb Walker, who's making his pro debut. Now, this is from where he turned pro at 2021 North Americans in Masters 35 plus Class D. And I think, the one thing that we can take from this, it's really hard to tell because there's no recent physique updates. But, I mean, I think this is a big dude. Just looking here, Class D, like Jared mentioned, Avatar class, the biggest guys in classic physique. And he actually beat, I do know Ali Ruhan right here on his right is a new IFBB pro. So he definitely, looking at just this front shot, I think he's got great shape. I'll be intrigued to see where he stacks up here in the open classic physique division. And lastly, we got Bob Waterhouse, a guy who has definitely leveled his physique up over a 2-year off season. I know he did Tampa in 2021 and he was top 15 in that show. But since then, he took third at Vancouver, where he was only 1 point away from second place. I believe he took seventh in Chicago, despite being in that first call out, and kind of moved around with the top 4 or 5 guys. So, Jared, when we look at some of these Chicago pro shots from Bob Waterhouse, what are his strengths?
It's like he brings great conditioning, really good, I would say really balanced physique all the way across the board. Great chest. I mean, look at that chest in that front lat. That's crazy. I would say that those are the main strengths that I kind of see here. Maybe he could, let's see. That's a good shot. Great shot. Great conditioning. I'd say maybe bring his arms down just a little bit here, just so that he can bring out a little bit more size in his lats, his lower lats specifically. And then also, would you mind going back to that last pose there?
Yeah, sure, man.
Man, he's got to open up, brother. He's got to open up. So but other than those critiques there, I think he's very solid. I'd say he's definitely a threat, to the first call outs here.
Yeah, so that is Bob Waterhouse, guys. And that is our laundry list of a Tampa Pro lineup. So now we'll get to the fun part. We got our top 5 and our winner. So we've got the lineup right here. And I'm going to just give Jared the option here as the special guest. Jared, would you like me to start or would you like to start?
You go first, brother.
All right, my man. So what we'll do, guys, is I'll give my fifth place pick, and then Jared will follow it up with his fifth place. We'll go down and eventually pick a winner.
So,
all right. So I don't have this written down like I usually do, guys, just to preface this. So I'm going off the top of my head. I'm praying to God I don't, forget somebody. But I'm gonna start out here in fifth place, and I'm gonna go with somebody who is a bit off the beaten path, somebody who you might not expect, but I'm going to go Dino Estrada here in fifth. I really like Dino's physique. I think he has very classic structure, crisp lines. He knows how to present himself very well. I have no doubt he'll be in great condition. And I love his physique. I think Dino's classic presence and look will definitely carry him far in this lineup. So I've got Dino in fifth place.
Awesome, guys. For my fifth place right now, I'm going with Dylan Bursey. I think that he's going to bring in, potentially some improvements from the last show, maybe coming a bit harder. But with that being said, he's a bit of a wild card. So I'm not saying that I'm not saying that he's definitely going to place fifth, but I do believe that he's going to be in that top five.
All right, so Dylan Bursey in fifth. For Jared, I've got Dylan in fourth. I really like his structure, and I think he stacks up very well against a lot of these guys they're outside of, I think, my top two or three. I think Dylan can get away with not necessarily being quite as filled out, just because he's such a fresh pro, and being a taller guy, he has the structure, the lines, the condition, you name it. It's just a matter of time with adding size that he needs. Literally nothing else. His physique is pristine already. He just needs more size. And I think he'll beat a lot of guys because he has all those qualities. Now, the guys that I have in the top three are all just more muscular than he is and have the same qualities. So I've got Dylan in fourth.
Awesome, man. For a fourth place, I've got Cremo Amari. I think that Cremo is he's going to continue to prove upon his previous physiques and things like that. With that being said, he could potentially be closer to first than fourth, but right now, three guys who I have in my top three are just very kind of what you said there, potentially outmuscle him a little bit, and his conditioning is great. I think these guys are going to be able to compete with his level of conditioning as well too.
Man, this is tough because I think what I did was I'm going to shift my picks back a little bit, actually, because I definitely forgot one guy. I definitely forgot him. And it's probably the same guy you're about to pick. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to slide mine back. So in sixth place, I have, let me think who I picked. God, I picked Dino. So I got Dino in sixth, Dylan in fifth, in fourth. Okay. So I'll do my fourth and my third. So in fourth, I've got Camilo Diaz. I got Camilo in fourth because he's got a lot of muscle, but the three guys ahead of him are going to beat him in shape. So in third place, then I've got Cremo Amari. I like Cremo from a structural standpoint over Camilo because he's going to bring roughly similar size, basically the exact same condition, but just an edge in the shape department. So I've got Cremo in third.
Awesome. For my third place, I'm kind of going with a bit of a wild card here because I believe that this guy is just so talented. And, like we kind of mentioned before, different judges kind of go for different looks sometimes, not all the time. But with that being said, I've got Amit Roy in third place. I believe that if he's able to bring really, really sharp conditioning, which he usually does, maybe, tweak his posing just a little bit to make it more classic. I don't really see too many people being able to beat him.
Amit Roy in third place. A wild card pick from Jared Keys. All right. So in second place, I've got in second 2 weeks consecutively, I've got Matt Grego. I just love Grego's structure. I think he's just going to continue to improve and climb that ladder in classic. I think he's got a great future in bodybuilding in general. So I've got him in second place.
I've actually got Matt Grego in second place as well too. I believe that if it wasn't for our first place guy, he would definitely be taking it home. But at the end of the day, that's the name of the game. You know, we don't control who shows up. We just bring our best. So with that being said, I do believe that Matt Grego is going to get second place at this one, at least second place. We'll say it like that.
And Jared, without further ado, who is your winner?
Number one, we're gonna have to go with, or I'm gonna have to go with Carlos Domar. Carlos, like we kind of mentioned before, he's just so complete. He's so solid. I do believe that this guy is going to place at the Olympia. So because of that, I don't think that there's really anybody in this lineup that's going to be able to match up with him pound for pound.
Yeah, completely agree, man. I think Carlos is just the most complete guy in this show. He brings everything, the condition, the lines, the shape, the structure, the mass, just everything. Very pristine, polished, no weaknesses in his physique. I don't see anybody beating him. I've got Carlos winning this show and stealing an Olympia qualification.
Feeling it.
All right, guys. So that is the conclusion of the preview. Now, before we get out of here, I want to make sure to remind you to follow our special guest today, Jared Keys. You can find him on Instagram at Jared Keys Bodybuilding. Now, if you guys want to support him, he's got all of his discount codes here. So Evolve Telemed, Chula Styles. If you guys need some really good trunks, if you guys are hitting the stage soon, use his code Jared10 and get yourself some awesome trunks. And then also gonna plug his coaching, the Keys conditioning, the Keys strength conditioning. You want to make sure you check him out if you're looking for a coach. Jared is an awesome IFBB pro and coach. So if you guys are looking for somebody for contest prep, for fitness coaching, Jared, what services do you offer just in case if people are looking for?
Thank you for having me. I do offer both lifestyle and competitive coaching. So with that being said, that includes workouts, completely custom workout plans catered to, your whatever you need for your physique, nutritional plans, both flexible and both, very, very, I want to say very, very strict, but, it just depends on the person, the individual. And then for all my 757 people in Virginia, I also do in-person personal training as well too. But anything you guys might need to get, to get in better shape or to get better results, reach out.
All right. And before we get going and conclude the preview, Jared, you got any shout outs you want to give or anything you want to say?
Man, so first off, I want to say, thank you for having me on here. I appreciate the opportunity every time we get, and I appreciate being able to share some of my insights with class physique and everything like that. I really appreciate you. Also, once again, shout out to all my sponsors, Gym Pen as well too, Jared 10. They're a big help. They definitely help me, get through these preps and things like that. But with all of that being said, thank you guys for tuning in and checking out this preview.
Yes, sir. Again, I want to thank my special guest, Jared Keys, for coming on and previewing the Tampa Pro with me. Again, tune in to the live stream that is at 11 a.m. Eastern time this Friday. You can find that on Tim Gardner Productions or the description here. So this is both Brant and Jared Keys signing out for CPC Bodybuilding. Keep it classic, guys. We'll see you later.